Mary Tyler Moore lists the 5 performers she detested the most before she passed away. On December 29, 1936, Mary Tyler Moore was born in Brooklyn, New York. Originally from a typical middle-class household, their life would soon take a surprising turn. When she was only. Her parents' decision to go to Los Angeles when she was 8 years old would subtly influence her entire future. Long before she realized how profoundly she would impact Hollywood, the shift put her at its doorstep. Mary was quiet, shy, and silently creative as a little child. She was always the one observing, learning, and taking in everything around her, even though she didn't have the biggest voice in the room. Her escape was dance. In particular, ballet stoked her inner fire. A dream, a discipline, a entrance. Her movements spoke louder than words. And the world soon started to take notice. Her first taste of stardom came in a series of oddball tiny TV ads rather than on a comedy stage or movie set. With a charm that viewers immediately recalled, she promoted 1950s home appliances as the amusing dancing elf known as Happy Hot Point. Although it was a modest start, it made something clear. Mary should have been on TV. In 1961, everything was different. She took on the job that would turn her from a commercial face into an American legend that same year. Laura Petrie, Dick Van Dyke's vivacious, fashionable, and witty wife on the Dick Van Dyke Show. The 1961 to 1966 series accomplished more than just providing entertainment. It displayed Mary's uncommon fusion of natural expressiveness, emotional warmth, and humorous instinct. Her Laura Petrie was more than simply a wife on sitcoms. She was bright, humorous, independent, modern, and most of all, genuine. Mary broke the pattern during a period when women on television were frequently restricted to specific, predictable roles. With each scene, each look, each sentence. She became famous as a result of the performance. However, a much more contentious tale that she largely kept to herself also gained traction as her notoriety and influence increased. Because her life came to an end before. Mary Tyler Moore would list the 5 actors she hated the most in this chapter. And the explanations for why she concealed the list for so long. Moore's role was unique among TV wives in the early 1960s. She is intelligent, independent, funny, and not afraid to disagree with her husband. Even the seemingly unremarkable design choice she made to wear capri pants on screen subtly questioned the standards of American women at the time. Her relationship with Van Dyke felt natural, genuine, and easy, enticing viewers into a contemporary yet incredibly endearing marriage. She became one of the most popular and energetic actors on television because to her performance, which won her 2 Emmys. Many people believed she had achieved the pinnacle of her career by the time the Dick Van Dyke Show concluded, but she was only beginning. She made a comeback in a role in 1970. They broke traditional comedy formulas. The Mary Tyler Moore Show features Mary Richards. A new era for women on television was personified by Mary Richards, a single, driven producer at a Minneapolis news station. Focused, independent, and determined to live her life as she sees fit rather than jumping into a marriage. By addressing themes of feminism, professional respect, and personal regeneration, the show made waves with its poignant blend of humor and social insight. It was more than just amusement. On film, a cultural change was taking place. Its iconic opening sequence, along with more. It went beyond a television moment when she gleefully threw her beret into the Minneapolis sky. It became a potent symbol of female autonomy and optimism. Her place in entertainment history wasn't the only thing the event guaranteed. Generations of women were inspired by it to openly and unreservedly pursue their dreams. The series itself continues to be a hallmark in television humor, and Moore's genius on it earned her 4 more Emmys. Praised for its heart, humor, and forward-thinking outlook. The influence of Mary Tyler Moore went well beyond the tiny screen. She shocked audiences in 1980 by taking on the role of a distant, emotionally complicated mother, a role that earned her an Academy Award nomination and showed a side of the well-liked comedian that many had not noticed. Her filmography also featured utterly contemporary. Her flexibility was further demonstrated in the 1967 film Millie and the 1969 film Change of Habit, in which she co-starred with Elvis Presley. Broadway demonstrated a unique ability to incorporate comedy, pathos, and sensitivity into parts that resonated with viewers in Whose Life Is It Anyway and The Gene Game. Deeply with viewers. Moore dedicated herself to causes near and dear to her heart offstage. After receiving a type 1 diabetes diagnosis in her early 30s, she became an ardent supporter and spent decades leading the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation, promoting awareness and furthering research. In addition, she supported animal welfare, leveraging her notoriety and power to change things beyond amusement. Millions of others felt less alone in their own challenges thanks to Mary Tyler Moore's bravery in expressing her personal struggles, which raised awareness of and understanding of chronic illness. She spoke out against cruelty and gave her voice to humanitarian concerns, advocating for animal rights in addition to health issues. She left a lasting legacy of kindness, empathy, and social responsibility that inspired many fans and other performers alike. Her generosity and compassion went well beyond the spotlight. Similar to the development of her job and the maturation she underwent as a woman, her personal life was equally complex and illuminating. Moore had 3 marriages, each of which shaped her emotional landscape, impacted her career choices, and quietly changed how the public perceived her off-screen. At the age of 18, she was on the verge of pursuing her Hollywood aspirations when she was married for the first time in 1955 to Richard Mere, much older and not in show business, provided Mary with the security she needed in her tumultuous early years in Los Angeles. The pair. In 1956, they welcomed their son, Richard Mere Jr., and Mary frequently thought about the mixed emotions of happiness and difficulty that accompanied being a first-time mother. However, as her career grew, initially through early appearances and TV ads, then with her breakthrough performance as Laura Petrie on The Dick Van Dyke. Meanwhile, tensions that would put the marriage to the test were brought on by the combined demands of parenting, ambition, and celebrity. Her exceptional career trajectory and her heart were fashioned by the collision of her personal aspirations with her family responsibilities. The pairs. In 1962, the marriage finally ended. However, they kept their respectful relationship and parted ways amicably. Years later, though, life would strike Mary a terrible blow when her 24-year-old son Richard was accidentally shot and killed in 1980. A loss that left a lasting impression. Left an impact on her heart and increased her empathy for those going through difficult times. She divorced Richard Mere that same year and quickly fell in love with Grant Tinker, a forward-thinking TV executive whose advice would have a significant impact on her career. 1962 marriage. Their partnership was as much of a romantic alliance as a creative one. Tinker and Mary co-founded MTM Enterprises, the production powerhouse behind The Mary Tyler Moore Show, a groundbreaking sitcom that revolutionized television for a new age, because Tinker appreciated Mary's intelligence and artistic talent. The show's extraordinary popularity solidified its status as a feminist icon, representing self-reliance, self-assurance, and autonomy. Throughout the 1970s, Tinker's astute business sense and Mary's creative intuition made the couple one of Hollywood's most renowned power couples. However, despite the well-preserved facade of harmony, the demands of celebrity, unrelenting work, and Mary's personal struggles with diabetes and drinking put increasing strain on their marriage. Although they continued to respect and like each other in later years, their marriage ended in 1981. Tinker developed into chairman of NBC, while Mary kept broadening her creative horizons by taking on dramatic parts that demonstrated her nuance and won her praise from many quarters. Mary finally fell in love with the doctor again after putting time into her health, personal healing, and developing career. The last words of Mary Tyler Moore. A 16-year-old cardiologist named Robert Levine was the beginning of her romantic journey. When Levine treated Mary's mother in 1982, their paths intersected, but their connection swiftly developed into one based on respect, understanding, and caring for one another. In 1983, they got married for the third time. Become the most stable and long-lasting for her. Mary's lifelong struggle with type 1 diabetes was successfully managed by Levine's medical knowledge, and he became not just her spouse but also her dependable caregiver and confidant. They established a calm life together, away from Hollywood. Spotlight, alternating between Connecticut and New York. In contrast to her previous marriages, Mary and Levine had a relationship characterized by everlasting commitment, shared empathy, and emotional stability. They remained together till her death in 2017. An example. To the unwavering devotion and affection that kept her going during the last few decades of her life. Mary Tyler Moore became one of America's most beloved television icons during her extraordinary career. Praised for her performance innovations, brilliance, and grace. Her warmth, professionalism, and relatability won over audiences all throughout the country, from her early days on the Dick Van Dyke show to the groundbreaking Mary Tyler Moore Show. Behind the camera, however, Hollywood was not always as hospitable or peaceful as it seemed. According to reports, Moore in her final years talked openly about her genuine opinions of some co-workers, citing 5 performers she had a very bad experience with. Glenn Corbett, a close friend and confidant in her last years, said Mary's candor was unwavering and showed a side of her outlook on the business that few ever saw. Mary Tyler Moore never acted as though working with every coworker she met was simple or pleasurable. Her frank thoughts provided a unique glimpse into the innermost annoyances of a woman who is typically praised for her elegance and poise. Rosemary, who co-starred with her on The Dick Van, was at the top of her list. DJK performance. The reality behind the scenes was much more strained, even if spectators enjoyed their on-screen chemistry. An experienced performer with a fiery personality and a keen sense of humor, Rosemary often struggled with excessive attention and notoriety. Given their youth and relative inexperience with television, Moore frequently felt overshadowed, as though Rosemary considered her to be an outsider in the field. Rosemary never missed a chance to remind everyone who had been in show business longer, Glenn Corbett recalled Mary saying. Moore acknowledged that the show's early seasons were tinged with a competitive uneasiness despite his professional manner. Vitality. Even if the tension subsided over time, a faint coldness persisted in their professional relationship. James Garner, with whom she briefly worked on a television project that eventually never materialized, was the second actor Moore specifically singled out. Garner, who is well regarded for his easy charm and tough appeal, seemed more contemptuous and difficult to relate to. Although she recognized his skill, she was put off by his cynicism. According to Corbett, Moore didn't like Garner's habit of making scathing jokes about the industry and its employees. Regarding Moore, Garner's casual demeanor frequently verged on irreverence, whereas she addressed her art with seriousness and respect, causing a subtle but enduring rift between them. Rosemary and James Garner were not the only challenging co-workers on Mary Tyler Moore's list. Their basic stylistic distinctions left enduring effects. Garner thrived on spontaneity and ease, but Moore was exacting, thorough, and detail-oriented. These temperaments clashed, causing a subtle tension that persisted long after their brief partnership was over. Another difficult person in her career was her co-star on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Ted Knight. Despite being adored for his awkward yet endearing performance as Ted Baxter, Knight had a tendency to be sensitive and melancholy off-screen. Mary once told me that Ted could be incredibly moody, Corbett recalled.